Welcome back, everyone, to another HOF research session. This week, we're going to be looking at NFL Week 5 props and parlays, 3 straights, and then we will have 3 parlays at the end. So make sure to stick around because we got some great value in there, some big plays, and some smart ones too. But starting off, I'm going to kick us off with a straight. I have Geno Smith to record an interception. He's hit in 3 of 4 games this season, including games with 3 interceptions twice, which is crazy. And if we go down to recent stat lines, he's going to face the Indiana defense, the Colts, who have recorded lots of picks. So pretty strong defensively. And also, what I really like about this pick, guys, is that the Colts are pretty strong this year. And the Raiders are pretty weak, and they're on the road. So it's going to be, they're probably going to be trailing. And you know what you have to do when you're trailing? You've got to throw the ball downfield to try and get yourself back in the game. When Geno's throwing it downfield, he's been throwing loads of interceptions. So I don't think they're going to be able to try and dink and run the ball and just try and get around it. He's going to have to throw the ball downfield. And the data says when he throws it downfield, we're cashing. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm really liking this pick. Minus 130. It was 120 earlier, I swear. I promise. But 130 is still good value, so we'll take it.
Yeah, so for my straight pick, I got Travis Etienne for anytime touchdown at plus 150 on DraftKings here. It's hit in 3 out of 4 games this year, including both games where they faced a matchup grade of B- or better. So Kansas City ranks in that tier, and I think it was the Bengals and Texans that rank in that tier as well. So it's hit in both those games. Kansas City does rank around that B+ A- matchup grade area, and they rank 25th for allowing anytime touchdowns and 20th in rushing yards to running backs. So they've given up the last 3 games. They've given up a touchdown anytime, and they've given up 2 to Justice Hill. So I think there's great value here. And Travis Etienne has also had 10 red zone carries this season, while averaging just under 1 red zone receiving target per game, which is actually tied 5th most for running backs. So I really like the volume he's getting here, and I think he's good to score for this game.
No surprises there. Some absolutely electric picks from the fellas. On to my pick, my straight here. As we like to say, back to the what, Aiden? Where are we going back to?
To the well.
Back
people.
to the well. You heard the man. My team, my Lions, Detroit. We're playing the Cincinnati Bengals this week on the road. I got them to cover a 9.5 spread. Bought it down a little bit. The even line is 10.5. Just like 9.5, a little better because touchdown and a field goal covers it pretty easily. But that being said, we're looking at the Bengals defense, which has been absolutely abysmal this year. They got blown out last game against Minnesota, I believe it was, who doesn't even have their starting quarterback. And then their offense, obviously without Joe Burrow, bottom of the barrel as well. So, really honestly expecting a blowout. I could even see this being a 20, 30-point blowout. That being said, looking at the data here, if we look at a few filters, so passing defensive ranking, if we filter that down to the bottom 50%, and then we also filter down the rushing defense, both of those we'll see that this is actually cashed in 75% of games when the defense is just bad overall, to be honest. I like this a lot for my straight. Pretty good value as well, and looking to cash another one.
Brian, that was just an exquisite read, and I'm going to follow it up with a banger. I am going for my first pick of my parlay. Eagles money line. Back to the well, as Brian would say. Eagles won in all 4 games this season. In 14 of 15 of their last home games, which is just insane. We know how good they are in Philly. And they play the Broncos, who have really struggled on the road. Lost both road games this season. And if we actually look back to last season, have lost 5 road games in a row. So they really struggle on the road. That takes me into my second pick. Jalen Hurts, anytime touchdown. Hit in 3 of 4 games so far this season. And then if we look at home games against easier matchups, he has absolutely crushed it over the last 2 seasons. Brian's about to have our percentage pulled up here. And yeah, we see just straight green. He's hit, I think that is 100%, and 7 games at home against weaker opposition, he scored a touchdown. Brian, if we jump over to usage share as well, we can see he's averaging 44% of the Eagles' red zone carries this season. So yeah, a simple 2-man. I really love these 2-leg parlays in that plus money range. We're getting it for, looks like it's jumped up a bit, plus 138, which I love. hit in 3 or 4 games this season. And Brian, if you could hit the home filter for the last 2 seasons, I believe that's 69% of games, which is brilliant. Great value, right? We're looking at implied odds in the minus 200s. We're getting plus money. So a banger for me.
All right, so for my first pick, I'm rolling with Chris Olave, 5+ receptions. It's hit in 3 out of 4 games this season and in both home games this season. So a lot of value there. Giants rank 25th in pass yards allowed so far this season, giving up an average of 255 yards per game and 31st to wide receivers specifically. So against New York Giants, I anticipate that he'll get a lot of underneath routes, which is good for receptions. The biggest selling point, though, here is that he's second in average targets per game for receivers so far this season with 10.8 targets on average. So I really like that he's getting a lot of volume. And it's a bonus if Juwan Johnson ends up missing the game too. He's even going to get more work. So I really like this pick for that reason. Also, Garrett Wilson, my next pick. I think he's been rolling well with the Jets. I like him for 60+ receiving yards. He's averaged about 78 yards per game this season, and it's hit in 3 out of 4 games this season. And he's been averaging 9.5 targets in those games and a crazy 36.5% target share. So the volume is definitely there for Garrett Wilson. Dallas also ranks dead last in receiving yards allowed against all pass catchers, allowing on average about 309 yards per game. So they've given up even more than 300 receiving yards to both Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson in week 2, and that was before Neighbors had that gruesome injury. So lot good defensive matchup there. I think they're going to need to throw the ball. My last pick is Javonte Williams for 60+ rush yards. He's been averaging also 78 rushing yards per game this season, and this line has also hit in 3 out of 4 games this season. It also hit last year against the Jets, and during that time he was in a committee, so he was even more limited with upside and carry, so I like his upside this year. And the Jets also rank 25th in rushing yards allowed, giving up 132 yards per game, and 23rd in rushing yards allowed to specifically running backs. So this line has cashed for the last 3 running backs that have faced the Jets. So very consistent there. Like the matchup. And if we filter by the teams and like the overall matchup grade rankings for the Jets, we see that teams that are in that similar range from C to A, we see that it's hit in both the games, which would be the Giants and the Bears. So we like the matchup there as well, and I think this is a pretty consistent line that we're getting it at.
2 more banger parlays from the guys over here. No surprises there. For my parlay, first leg, I'm going with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Again, back to the well. We got him for 60 receiving yards here against a Cincinnati defense who got absolutely demolished last week and ranked close to the bottom across the board here. We're looking at the last 2 seasons for Amon-Ra St. Brown. If we throw on the matchup grade filter, we'll see that as we get higher into the better matchup, this has cashed in every single game in the last 2 seasons. And if we go down here, we see that consistently getting around 8 targets a game. He's wide receiver 1 for the Lions, who have a very explosive offense. And then if we look at the yards high, this is cashed as far as I can count back, basically. So loving this pick, loving the value at minus 168. That'll be the first leg. Now, second leg is going to be Jacoby Myers for 50+ receiving yards. I know we did have Jacoby Myers last week, albeit it wasn't on my slip. It was on Brad's slip. He did miss. But what are the chances he misses again? Very low, in my opinion. We saw that he missed this line once during last season, and the next game he bounced back and had a solid game. This matchup here against Indiana defense, you'll see that their rush yards are extremely high ranking, and then their receiving yards, they're near the bottom there. So Ging's not expecting Genty to go off like for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns like he did last week, expecting those targets to remain at least at this average or maybe higher that we saw around 12. And then as we can see against the Indiana defense, 3 wide receivers ones in a row cashed this line pretty easily. So love that at minus 170. And that brings us into the final pick here, which is Cam Skattebo for 70+ rushing and receiving yards. So targeting both of those there. And as we see with the usage chart here, Tyrone Tracy was the second running back here. He got injured, and Scadaboo has really been dominating carries from that perspective. Next closest is Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart, who obviously aren't going to be running as much as a running back. And we see that week by week, his rushing attempts goes up significantly. He saw 25 carries last week, and also two receptions to add to that. I don't expect it to be 25 again, but if it follows the trend and it stays around that, anywhere between 15 to 25, expecting this to cash really easily. And if we look at previous running backs against this poor defense, most of them are clearing this, I would say. Yeah, so with these three legs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jacoby Myers, and Cam Scadaboo, we're getting this for plus 236 at DraftKings, which it's pretty good value. Nothing crazy, but we're seeing good value on the board. And honestly, I expect this to hit. Want to get back in the winning column for the YouTube fam, of course. That'll wrap up our 3 straights and 3 parlays for NFL Week 5. Make sure to leave a like on this video if it's been helpful. Don't forget, you can use the same exact tools we have on mobile as well as desktop. See the same things that we're seeing. Just go to hoffapp.com, download us on the App Store, use code HOFYT. That gets you 7 days completely for free, 50% off the first month subscription. Honestly, the deal doesn't get much better than that. You're leaving money on the table at this point if you're not using HOF. So make sure you do that. Tune in next week to catch our picks, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.